special guest today gave me specific instructions on his introduction, and he said, I don't want an introduction. So, this is my dad. This is our senior pastor at Cross Church, who will celebrate his 30th anniversary here at Cross Church this October, this month. So why don't y'all give it up with no introduction to my dad here.
Good morning, everyone. I really hope that you're having a great day. You know, I haven't spoken at the summit in a long time, so I'm intimidated. We used to do that every week. We started with the summit with me speaking every Thursday, just talking about life and leadership and how to motivate people, bring teams together. And we were clicking 200 or more, and I was doing some other stuff constantly, and finally the preparation just got consuming. And so we started bringing in people, and which came on great, because then we were moving here and from over there, and the thing just blew up. And so we're really thankful. It's hard to believe. We have been investing in leaders in this luncheon gathering for 15 years. Is that not amazing? And so for many of you who you know, you've been coming many of those years, I just kind of aged us all a little bit, didn't we? And so what a great privilege it is. Today, I want to introduce a new friend of mine, and I want y'all to really welcome him here today. He is the new president of Ouachita Baptist University down in close to, obviously, in central Arkansas. And so I want y'all to welcome Dr. Ben Sells. Dr. Sells, why don't you stand? Welcome, everyone. And if you are a Ouachita graduate, or you have any teenager who has thought one time about going to Ouachita, he'll be hanging out here with some of his board members right after, and we'll be glad, I'm sure, to say hello to you. ESPN produces a series of documentary films. In fact, that series is called 30 for 30. Have you ever seen it? It's pretty powerful. In fact, that 30 for 30 is so strong that I've watched several of them. They're very powerful, they're very engaging, and it's about people, and it's about events in sports history. I thought about that in preparation for this lesson today, because I didn't really have a clue what I was going to talk about. So I'm going to talk about something that I've never talked about before. And so with that, I really want to ask you to go on me with a journey. And the journey is about some of those leadership lessons that I've learned in my life over the last 30 years of leading people in one organization. You say, how long are you going to go, Ronnie? I'm going to go fast. So if you're taking notes, be sure you write fast. And so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create my own 30 for 30 today. And in that 30 for 30, I'm going to give to you 30 lessons I have learned in leadership through leading the same organization for 30 years. When I said that title to my wife the other day, she said, that's a long title. I said, you think? But it at least explains exactly what I'm going to talk about, and that's why I wanted to do it. But 30 lessons on leadership, there are a lot of you that could do that. It's not like that's a big deal. But think about it this way, in the same organization for 30 years. It's one thing leading several organizations for 30 years. It's another thing leading the same organization for 30 years. I was a kid preacher when I came here. I really was. It's hard to believe. I grew up in the shadow of the University of Texas football stadium just south of Austin, and always had a dream to be the head football coach of the University of Texas and then to the Dallas Cowboys. And the Lord had different plans. I've often thought the last decade how much both of them have needed me. But I think back to coming here 30 years ago when I was just a kid preacher. I came on a Sunday in September, and the church would vote on you. Some of y'all remember churches that would vote on you. They called it in view of a call. I don't know what that means, but that's what I came and did. And again, our kids were like really, really small. I had them look up and see what the vote was. I kind of remembered it. It was a little better than I thought it was. I had 905 for me and 12 against me. I don't know what happened to that 12. I don't know if they're still with me. They may be great friends. I have no idea. But that's kind of where we started in all that. At the same time, I have to admit that a lot of leadership I've learned on the job, just like most of us learn leadership. Books are good, but I tell you what, I remember one time being with Mr. Hunt, and he was saying, yeah, these young guys, they always want me to read a book. I always ask me, you need to read a book, read this book on leadership or something. He said, the way I figure it, if it's in a book, it's too late. Why read it? I thought that was one of the greatest insights I've ever heard, and how true that was about Mr. Hunt's life. But in all of that, I learned a lot about leadership in Northwest Arkansas. There were some great leaders here. I mean, do you realize, I know today we're amazed at the leadership culture in Northwest Arkansas. Let me just tell you, and many of you who have been here all these years, you know that leadership culture is nothing new here. I mean, this region is built because of great leaders of decades ago, and that's why we have what we have here today, because the seeds of leadership are often planted decades before they ever come into reality. Well, in all of this learning time, I learned so much from the men and women around me that were engaged in this unique corporate culture, semi-corporate, a little bit more now then, but at the same time, it was just amazing when you get inside of it, and I had the privilege to be inside of it with some of the great people in this region. And simultaneously, right after that, I started really getting involved in doing things in the Southern Baptist Convention, which also helped teach me leadership. Just being involved in organization that's difficult and complicated, and some of it archaic and might need to be blown up or something, and but yet I learned so much about learning and working and leading in all kinds of situations. I've just recently finished 2 years as president of the Southern Baptist Convention, the largest Protestant denomination in the United States. We have, I think, some 51,000 different churches, 12 national and international ministry entities. We have some 42 state conventions, 1,100 associations, and all of them have an opinion. And with all of that, I've learned to walk in some of that, and I've learned to walk in the life of a church, and I've learned to walk in the life of other leaders. I want to say to you today, if this room were filled with several hundred pastors, I would approach this lesson a little bit differently than what I'm about to approach it with you. So don't think, oh my gosh, I'm going to listen to this so-called preacher talk about something with me that I really don't have any interest in. I hope that's not true, because I'm going to talk about leadership, and that's why you come to this luncheon. You come to this luncheon to learn and to grow, and that's what I'm going to talk about. And so what I'm going to do is today is I'm going to take you on a journey. And so we're going to begin the journey. And some of these I'm simply going to show you. I'm going to read them. We're going to move to the next one. Along the way, I might tell a brief story or just simply say a few brief things. So 30 lessons that I've learned in leadership and about leadership in leading for the last 30 years in the same organization. Leadership lesson number 1. Leadership is rallying people to a better future. When you really reduce leadership, I know many of us think it's influence, and it is influence. I agree totally with that. But it's taking a group of people toward a common goal to experience a better future than they've been living. I'm not sure where the election for the office of President of the United States is going to go, but I will make an observation about that with you today. Of the Americans that will vote on November the 8th or before, whoever votes and whatever they are comprised of when they vote and what they believe at the moment they vote, the person of the two who has convinced the vast majority of those who are choosing to vote that they can create a better America in the future will probably win the election. And that's the question of all leadership. When you think about leading any organization you're involved in, never forget those words. It's rallying people to a better future than the present day in which they live. Lesson number 2, vision is seeing it before you see it. I could take you to the very spot. I could take you to the stoplight in Springdale, Arkansas, when I had a great leader look across to me and say, Ronnie, you don't ever need to forget these words I'm about to tell you. Vision is seeing it before you see it. Meaning you got to see it before it ever comes into reality. I saw this piece of property when there was nothing on this property but a barn. But I saw it. I saw this constructed. I saw crosses that reached halfway to heaven. I saw a lake. I saw it all. Oh, I didn't have a vision in relationship to one night I woke up by the Lord and He said, build this. No, I never had that. I'm not looking for that. But leaders see things. They see things that's out there before they ever see them with their physical eyes. You see, the real question about matters when you lead, and you lead a group, and this can be one of the most powerful things you do with a few people in a room one day when you need something to talk to them about. And ask them this question, what do you see? What do you see? I mean, what do you see for our organization 5 years from now? What do you see about where I need to be a year from now? Whatever it is. Powerful question. There's a lot there, so don't underestimate it. Leadership lesson 3, I learned, all people matter. All people matter. Now, those of us that have been around the block reading anything that's any good, including the Bible, which is the best good we got, we know that all people matter. To me, as a Christian, all people matter to me because all people matter to God. I think it's important in this world today, even with this messed up situation as we have, that we remember all people matter. But you know, I learned of that principle about all people matter. Yes, I learned it probably in some little Sunday school class somewhere when I was a little boy. And I had it reinforced to me probably in various colleges and seminaries that I was a part of. But I'll tell you where I really learned it. I learned it in Northwest Arkansas. You see, there was a Northwest Arkansas when I came here where everybody mattered. It did not matter whether you were making millions, or you were making hundreds of thousands, or you were making pennies. I saw it again and again and again. People would come to church, and the very people who were making the least amount of money would sit by some of the wealthiest people in this region. Again and again and again. You know what I learned? All people matter. Now, let me just say this about where our country is today. We need to remember that. Black, white, brown, Asian, all people matter. Ideology, Democrat, liberal, elitist, Republican, conservative, extreme, wherever you are in all that, I just want to make it real clear. All people matter. And somehow that's got to happen. Somehow that's got to happen. Number 4, put change in your pocket in relationships so you'll have something to spend when you lead people. Think about that statement. John Maxwell taught me that statement. Y'all know who John Maxwell is, don't you? He's spoken here at this summit years and years ago. But you put change in your pocket. Put it in your pocket, meaning you have to have relationships before you ever ask people to do something. Oftentimes leaders want to totally escape the relational dynamics of leadership. How are you going to have anything to spend with the people you are leading if you don't ever hang out with the people and know who the people are and at least show an interest in their life? We call that putting change in your pocket relationally, so you'll have something to spend when you lead people. Number 4, I'm still learning, and this one's hard for me. Walk slowly through the crowd. Walk slowly through the crowd is very, very important. Don't walk too fast. Take time to be with people. Don't let others pull you away into some mundane task that you have out here somewhere at the expense of listening to someone tell you something that they really want you to hear. Walk slowly through the crowd. It's important that anytime we lead people, we need to be able to touch people, encourage people, listen to people. Listening is one of the most powerful, underused tasks and tools that a leader can and use in his life. Some people, even those who may not like where you're going in life and leadership, you know what? They will go with you if you will learn to listen to them. And listen to them and don't try to change your mind. Leadership is not about always having to have the last word. Leadership is about doing what is right. And it's right to listen to people share their heart with you. Walk slowly through the crowd. Lesson number 6, limit time with people who deplete you, but expand your time with people who replenish you. You say, now wait a minute, Ronnie, you just said all people matter. They sure do matter. But there are some people that they deplete the crud out of you. I mean, you see them coming, you think, oh my Lord. Because it's the same thing all the time. Y'all got anybody like that in your life? Some of you that know me, you say, yeah, you. Okay, fine. Don't be that honest. But the point is that you limit time with people who deplete you. but expand the time with people who replenish you. I mean, every one of us need to be replenished. There are people, when I am with them, they replenish me. They make me better. They make me want to be with them. Have you thought about it? It's kind of dangerous to think about. I wonder if people really want to be with me. Do I replenish them, or do I weigh them down? We not only need to hang out with people who replenish us, we need to be replenishing people, encouraging people, loving people, smiling people, joyful people. You don't see a lot of joy in the life of people. People need a joyful person in their life. Lesson number 7, enjoy the special moments. Boy, leadership's filled with some special moments. When you're long-term in a place, in an organization, sometimes you take some of those special moments for granted, but enjoy the special moments. Yesterday, Gina and I were in Dallas, and we had a guy come, and he picked us up and was taking us somewhere that we had to be, and we got in the vehicle, and he was brand new in Dallas in the last few months, and was from some country in Africa, and I kept on carrying a conversation with him, and in his broken English, he was telling us that of some illustration, and we got it. Gina really got it, and then I got it. She can hear a little bit better than me, so it helps. So basically he was saying, all of you in America, I know it's bad, but you have gold in your hand, meaning you need to appreciate what you have. Because this is number one country of the world, number one country of the world. That's why I'm here. I wanted to live in the number one country of the world. Those are great words. What he's saying to you, hey, America, you need to learn to enjoy the special moments. You live in a great country. Even with all the mess up that's going on and the challenges that are out here, it's still a great nation. And many times, those of us that have led anywhere a long time, we shouldn't have to lose it to appreciate it. We need to learn to enjoy the special moments. Lesson number 8, learn from your defeats, but celebrate the victories. How many of you ever lost in leading something? Ever had a vision bomb? Didn't get a sale that you were counting on, that you knew you had it in your hand, man. And you were already thinking, what am I going to do? You know, with that money I'm going to get on that bonus. Hey, we've all lost certain things. What did you learn? What did you learn? You know, if you don't reach a goal, do you ever stop long enough to evaluate why you didn't reach a goal? I mean, maybe you need to ask yourself a question. Was that a stupid goal? Was that a reasonable goal? Was it attainable? Or was I just some egomaniac thinking I was King Kong and I was going to be able to get it done? Which one was it? Or maybe I didn't do due diligence because I thought I had my ducks lined up before it ever came and I didn't have to do the detail and I wasn't ready. Maybe I didn't involve the team the way I needed to involve them. Learn from the defeats. And then also, we have victories when we lead. And aren't you glad when you win? But sometimes, people like me, in organizations like ours, we run so fast that we don't stop long enough and celebrate the victories. And we need to celebrate the victories. I'm looking forward to celebrating the victory against Alabama next Saturday night. You know, you say, you're crazy. No, I'm going to celebrate it if we do it, I promise you. Amen. That was a great statement of faith, but I do believe it. I believe it can happen. I told a friend of mine from Alabama that called me a while ago, let me tell you something, buddy. I hope you have a bad Saturday night. And I said, you probably won't hear from me unless you do have a bad Saturday night. Lesson number 9, stay out of the ditches in your leadership. God knows I've been in those ditches many times. My Lord, I've had somebody pull on me, want me to do something, and, I did it. And then I was in it, and I thought, Lord, help us. What an idiot. Why did I do that? You got to stay out of ditches in leadership. You see, if you don't stay out of ditches, here's what happens. You take your opportunity to leading this many people down to leading this many people. Because sometimes our ditches can become so divisive that we can't bring the masses along with us in the vision. So stay out of the ditches of leadership, and because they're there. Lesson number 10, truth guides great leaders, not trends. Oh, you need to be sensitive to the trends, but if you start mandating your future by a trend, you better get ready to change in the next day or two, because there's going to be another trend then. It's got to be truth that dominates you and guides you, not simply a trend that's out there. Oh, I could talk about that a long time, but I don't have the time. But anyway, let's look at number 11. Do what is best for the organization. Do what is best for the organization. I tell my team all the time, because I believe it firmly. When you're confronted with a decision that you do not know what to do, and there are a lot of them, you have basically a grid of decision making. And I put them through a grid, and I teach them a grid. And it's true for your company, but I'm just going to talk about it from my life. And just that first question, that's the key. Here's the question I tell them, because it's the first question I ask every day of my life, numerous times. What's best for the church? That's the big question. That's what needs to guide me, not what's best for me, not what's best for some opinionated staff member out here that thinks he or she needs his way. Not something out here that's going on somewhere. No, it's got to be what is best for the organization. That's the key number 1 question. And you got to ask that. And leaders ask the right questions, by the way. Leadership lesson number 12. Who surrounds you will define you. Boy, I've had to learn that the hard way. Just because you like somebody doesn't mean that they help you chart the vision. Be careful who you surround yourself with in your life. Those that are close and those that are not so close. Because whoever surrounds you will define you. And if you have principles and beliefs that are important to you, then they need to have principles and beliefs that agree with your principles and your beliefs. Lesson number 13, hire people slowly but fire people quickly. That's nothing new, and you know that, but it's something that is really hard to do. Sometimes we always want to get in a hurry when we want somebody, and if we're not careful, we'll sell out to have it, and it's not the right thing. Hire people slowly, fire people quickly. But you have to give people a chance to succeed. You've got to be patient and beyond patient. But then there comes a time, if the DNA doesn't match. Context is very important to leadership. And sometimes the context just isn't right. And so it's a hard line to walk on. We've all had to walk on it. It's difficult to understand. But that's part of leadership, is making the difficult decisions. Lesson number 14, wisdom, discernment, and timing are critical in decision making. Well, I tell you what, you got to be wise. You got to see it right. Discerning, the ability to judge, And judging comes down to ultimately many times not only to should this be the right decision or should it not be, but timing many times needs to be the ultimate in that decision situation. And that takes discipline from a leader to be sure that it's a wise thing to do, that it's the right thing to do, and it's the right time to get it done. Lesson number 15, do not sell out to keep any staff member. Boy, I had to learn that the hard way. You can't sell out to just keep somebody. You ever had anybody organization that's always going to remind you everybody else in America wants them? All right, well, if that's true, go. That's about how sensitive I am about it today. And I mean it. I mean, hey, I don't mind one shot out here, but I don't want anybody around me that's always going to tell me what opportunities they have out here. I expect our people to get opportunities. I do. I don't expect them to leave, but I expect them to have them. And when they do leave, I try my best to celebrate it as long as they leave right. They don't leave right, I don't celebrate it because it's not about them. It's about what's best for the organization before they came, when they were here, and after they leave. You got to keep the big picture in leadership, whether you're there or you're gone. Lesson number 16, transition is inevitable and strategic change always has a cost. Boy, I know some people, they just wish it would be the same all the time. Transition never ends. It's always going on. It's always happening. And guess what? Every time you make a tough decision, there's a fallout. John L., you may have never heard me tell this story. Y'all were in the old J.B. Hunt building on 71B. I'll never forget, I walked in to see Mr. Hunt one day. I sat down in front of him, and the company had just made a decision. It was one of his decisions, and he was saying, he said, let me teach you something here, Ronnie. And he took out a little piece of paper and his pen, and he drew on there an illustration in his mind. And he said, you need to always remember, anytime you want to take your organization up, that's change. He said, it's always going to be a fallout. People are going to always fall out. So you got to let them fall out because you got to go forward. It's all about always going forward. Let me tell you something. That's so true. I've never forgotten that. And that's exactly what it is. It's being able to understand there comes a time, and it's got to be the right time. Transition is inevitable, and strategic change, it always has a cost. Lesson number 17, people who are highly critical of others will also be critical of you. Just remember that. You sit there and listen to somebody rip around, they just rip after this and rip after that, sooner or later, you're going to get it too. So be careful you don't chime in. And you know what? Quite honestly, they're not easy people to be around, are they? I mean, who wants to be around somebody that always is critical about everything and every person and every situation they're a part of? Lesson number 18, people will disappoint you. Y'all find that in your life? A lot of leaders don't know that. They really don't. I mean, they have this idealistic view that, man, everything falls apart. Let me just tell you, people will disappoint you. Some of your greatest friends will disappoint you. But that doesn't mean you don't love them. That doesn't mean you don't adjust to it. You just have to recognize this is who they are in this situation. I got to give them a break. Sometimes my team knows me. I give people a lot of breaks, and I'm not probably perceived that way, but I really am. I believe in giving people an opportunity to fail. People will disappoint you. But number 19 is one of the greatest lessons I've ever learned. Never let anyone outside of your circle of love. That's so important. See, when you are the kind of leader you need to be, it doesn't matter what somebody says about you. It doesn't matter what somebody does to you, what they write about you, what they editorialize about you, what they social network about you. You never let anyone outside of your circle of love. You want to be able to go to bed at night and you want to have your mind and your heart completely clear that if life were to end tonight, all is well. And sometimes the very things that so upset us, they're really not that important anyway. And they're definitely not important in relationship to loving people. Then, lesson number 20, invite your opponents to help you formulate the future. Have you ever thought about that? Pretty powerful principle. There are times when you're leading something and your team, there are members of your team, they're pretty out there, and you know they're not there, and you know they're not really with you. Maybe there's a certain segment of the business is not with you. Perhaps a strategy you could use to pull them closer to you. If people make an investment toward the future, they're usually a little more willing to come along with you later because it becomes everyone's vision, not just your own. Lesson number 21, lift the principles high and do not lose the vision on details. So often we are so sticklers when it's, we have a vision to do something, and we're a stickler on those details. And if we're not careful, those details we need to be willing to compromise. It's not the details you're trying to save. You're trying to save the principles of the vision. So remember, lift the principles high and do not forfeit the vision. Do not lose the vision on the details. Lesson number 22, beware of mission rift, confront mission drift. Oh, I want to tell you today, that's so important. Beware of mission rift. In other words, it's going to happen. Mission rift is going to happen. People are not always going to be with you in the battle. But listen carefully. Confront it. Confront the rift and confront when the mission begins to drift. If you're not careful, it's so easy to drift. It's like being in a boat, and here you are at the dock, and you think you're about to get out of the boat, and all of a sudden you weren't paying attention. You were putting something up, getting ready to get out of the boat, and the current, the water just kind of pushed the boat away from the dock. And then that gives you a problem because you have to restart the boat, or you got to figure out how to get over there. You follow what I'm saying? That's exactly what happens in an organization with your mission. If you're not careful, the mission, it will drift. And as a leader, you have to always bring it back to what it needs to be. Lesson number 23, investing in leaders strategically ascends the organization and extends your leadership influence. Boy, it's so important that we invest in all leaders, not just the next generation, but invest in leaders strategically. It takes the organization up. Many times organizations pay people big money, but they never develop those leaders. Take the time to develop them strategically, because when you do that, that extends, not only the organization takes it up, but it extends your longevity in the organization, because that means even if you leave, you planting seeds in them, they'll never forget, and your leadership can carry on. Lesson number 24, never believe all the good people say about you, or you will also have to believe all the bad they say about you. I've had to learn that. I mean, people nice, and some of them at times have the power and the gift to suck up, and I'm not sure I'm really believing what all they're saying, but if I do believe it, guess what? I'll believe all the good, then that means I also have to believe all the bad people say about me. So somewhere in life as a leader, you got to understand, things are never as bad as they seem, but things are also never as good as they seem. And you have to figure out where that is, and that needs to become the lane that you walk in. Lesson number 25, leadership is comprised of various seasons. You ever get discouraged in leadership? Boy, sometimes we get discouraged in seasons. You get discouraged when you don't see leadership is full and comprised of many seasons in an organization. And there are sometimes seasons are not productive. Any of y'all ever have non-productive seasons? But you know what? It's a season. Or maybe you've been working really hard. Most of the times when that work element goes on, that's excessive, it's a season. And you have to go into it knowing it's a season, and it's one day going to be over. So just go ahead and buy into it and sell out to it and go forward. Leadership is able to be a lot more enjoyable when you understand it's comprised of various seasons. Lesson number 26. Leadership longevity is possible when you learn to surf the waters of cultural and leadership change successfully. Well, I'll tell you what, it's not easy. How do you live long anywhere and lead the same organization with longevity? You got to learn to surf the waves of cultural and leadership change. It's big time, it's a big issue, and we got to learn to do it. Number 7, this is easy. I just thought I'd throw this in here, but this is big. Always start your day with God. You can start your day a lot of places, but always start your day with God. You say, what do you mean? Just try to get with God. Open up the Bible. Let the Bible talk to you in the morning. If you start right, you'll end right. Everybody needs accountability. That's where your biggest accountability is in life anyway. Lesson number 28. Generosity sets a leader apart from other leaders. You want to set your leadership apart? You be generous. People are not used to people being generous. People are not used to generosity being expressed to them. It doesn't matter whether they have anything or whether they have a lot. People are not used to being around a leader that is motivated by generosity. Number 29, build exercise and fitness into your life 5 to 6 days a week. I could talk about that, a whole summit session, because I'm so convinced of it, and I know that that's not a very exciting one. But if you want to live anywhere long and lead anywhere very long in your life, you better do that. Because if you want to be healthy when you're 80, you better worry about that when you're 40. It's all a matter of perspective, and you plant seeds even with your physical body and taking care of your physical body. One of the greatest stress relievers you can do is what I just wrote right there for you. Lesson number 30, the last lesson, one of the greatest lessons I've ever learned about leadership, and many leaders don't know it. Not every hill is worth dying on. So many times leaders die on the most stupid hills. Don't die on those hills. Politicians are doing it before our eyes every day in every level of elections. Not every hill is worth dying on. You got to realize what is worth dying on, what it's not worth dying on. And when you learn that, guess what happens to your leadership? It just goes up. And that's hard for independent, self-willed, strong, passionate leaders. But not every hill is worth dying on. It'd be interesting of all of us how many lessons of leadership we could all come up with in this dynamic. I listed at least 60, and I stopped because I knew I had to condense. I hope you'll have a great day. And my final word to you today is this. You got one shot in your life. One. Not two. You got one. Make it count. Make it count. And it all starts with what you do this afternoon. Make it count. Have a great day. Blessings.